I am deleting all of this. Okay. Hey everyone, it's Aradhana. Um, so, I'm still figuring out this AuthorTube thing, but I thought I would talk a little bit more about how I do the whole plantsing thing when it comes to writing. I've talked about being a plantser in all of my videos so far. I've talked about it on Twitch. I have talked about it uh, on writing discords. It is the approach to writing that works for me so far. Maybe someday I'll get into planning a little bit more, and maybe someday that will actually work for me. But as of this moment, planting has been the approach to writing that has seen me actually complete short stories and novellas and, put them out there and offer them to people. So, planting is sort of a mix between planning and pantsing, right? Obviously, that's what planting joins the two words together. But I think everybody has a different way to plant. Like for me, I go into the story with a sort of through line. Um, for for example, for some of my stories that I wrote for Kofi, uh, I have the note at the top of the story where before I started, where I was like, okay, this is the story where the divorcee meets her ex, and it's well when she's finally moving on with her life. And that was my through line, and I had a specific scene that I knew I wanted to write, and then I wanted to reach there, and it was the reaching there that took a few thousand more words than I thought it would. But when it did reach there, it worked. I had another story that I had written. I had written down as the character names, meeting as a fox, AU, because I had used this character, one of these characters, in something else with a friend, and then we had discussed this, but we had never done anything about it. And then I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I write this as a short story?" And yeah, so I had that through line. So I knew I wanted to do, that was the story. Sometimes I have point A and point Z, and then I have a few midpoints that I want to reach, and then it's the getting there, the journey of writing that gets there. And then the first draft is just getting that story out on page, getting the pieces that I already have and joining them together and putting them in a way that works. And that's, first draft, just get it out there. Doesn't matter how meandering or how introspective or how little dialogue there might be, or how, little kid, like how much it focuses on one character. The first draft is just getting it on the page, and then you take a few days, step away from that piece of work, and then I come back for edits. I mean, if I have a deadline, I don't take that few days. I take maybe a night, sleep on it, and then come back for edits, or I'll write in the morning and I'll come back at night. I just need that little bit of break of at least a few hours to come back at this first draft with fresh eyes, and then I can do my edits. And depending on the story, the rounds of edits I go through might not be as intense. Like for fan fiction, I will admit freely I do not do as intense editing as I might do for my short stories or for my novella. The novella I have written, I had posted it a long time back as a very short story for my friends, and then I had taken that and turned it into a novella. I went through a few edits for the novella, and then I had posted it on Ko-fi, and it's still up for free on Ko-fi, but it's not easy to search because it's up in chapters. And then looking at that, I wanted to collate it into an ebook. And while I was collating it into an ebook, I was like, hey, I can do another round of edits. So, the novella has gone through like 4 or 5 round of edits. And each round of edits has been a different thing. It's been cutting out scenes, it's been rearranging scenes, it's been obviously proof editing, But for fan fiction, most of the time I just end up doing proof editing, and then I post it. Because fan fiction is just, for fan fiction, it's fun, it's for me, end of the day, for me. Fan fiction, the fan fiction I write is for me. But for the short stories, it depends. Most of the time I go through at least 2 rounds of editing. The Avengers prompts, the author Avengers prompts that I do, I usually approach it slightly differently than the other short stories, but I handwrite it out, first draft, free write, handwrite it, type it out, and then I just copy that exactly in for typing it out, and then I sit down, open it on Scrivener. It's one of the few things I actually write on Scrivener, and then I open it on Scrivener, then I have the first draft and then a blank document, and then I do a second round of edit, do a second draft, which is I don't copy it over, I write it, like rewrite it, and then I add things and take things out, and then try and get it a bit more, not coherent per se, but more focused in the story that I want to tell. And then that is my second draft, and then I will go through it for proof editing. The prompts, they do not go through multiple rounds of editing. It just goes through these 2 or 2 or 3 edits, and then I post them online. For the short stories, it generally takes me longer to write, because I let myself think, and just sometimes I overthink, and sometimes the scenes don't go the way I want to. So the short stories have an additional step compared to my prompt stories or some of my fanfiction, in that after I go through the first draft and go through it one time, read it, and then at the end, you get the story in your head so many times everything starts blurring together, I go to a couple of my writing friends, whom we have a reciprocal beta reading, I guess you could say. I will send them the story if they are free, if they agree to it. They will read through it, they will tell me their thoughts, they'll tell me scenes that work or don't work, if there's something that jumps out of them, and I will either explain why I chose to do it that way, and then we will discuss whether or not it works, or I will be like, oh hey, yeah, that was bugging me, thank you for pointing it out, I couldn't figure out why that was bugging me, and then I will go in and make the edits. The reciprocal part is that when they write, they do the same thing, and so it really helps to have a community that is very helpful and willing to give you feedback. So, and then once that is done, okay, edits are done, and then comes the worst part of writing, coming up with a title. Yeah, coming up with a title is not fun. Most of the time, this is the part that I'm just sitting there and going, yeah, I have nothing, and then I will ask somebody who's read it, okay, does this work? Or I will be like, you know what, I'm just gonna take a phrase from the story and pop that in there, or something really obvious and it really, in your face, really like literal, and I'll put that in there as the title. If for fan fiction, this is not so much of a problem. Fan fiction, I just song lyrics, okay, let's find a song lyric that works for this or works for like me personally, I like the song lyric, and I will just pop it in there. But for short stories, novellas, for any original thing, you can't really do that, can you? So titling, not so fun. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I'll be like, hey, this story title speaks to me, this story has a title, and we are done. But sometimes titling the thing can take longer than everything else. But yeah, so plantsing, I have a way to plants, and occasionally the piece of dialogue that I was so excited for the story does not make it into the final story. Those snippets those scenes get slightly edited and posted on Ko-fi as my snippets from nowhere. If you follow my Ko-fi page, you might have read my Snippets from Nowhere series, which is just a bunch of unconnected scenes of introspection or dialogue or character interaction that do not fit in any of my stories. It's just things that I've thought up, I've imagined for stories that I'm not writing, for like stories that I have thought about, things that, you know, I wish I had the motivation or the actual drive to write, but these things are, you know, sometimes you just have stories that you dream about, and then you know stories are never gonna make it on the page, but some of those scenes are like, hey, this turn of phrase is amazing, and then I write them down as a snippet and I post them. But yeah, plantsing, how it works for me. Planning, I have tried once or twice and did not really work for me. I did that for my script for my master's. I mean, obviously, you have to approach it in the way, you know, your thesis advisor expects, the way you get graded for. So I have it all planned and I did not have fun. I did not write it the way I wanted to, and now I'm looking at that script that, you know, I still got my degree for. I'm looking at that script and I'm like, I'm taking that as my first draft, and I might do edits and turn it into a novella. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, what do you do for your writing, and does any of this resonate with you? Is this like, does it sound weird to you, like this approach to writing? Do you do something similar? I love talking about writing and the different ways people write, and picking on people's brains and like finding tips and tricks and exchanging ideas. So if talking writing is something that you are interested in, I will put in the links to the different some of the different writing discords I'm in, and feel free to join us, or, you know, join me on my Discord. And yeah, I will see you in 2 weeks for my next video, which might just be a Christmas movie video. I'm currently watching a lot of Hallmark movies, so it might just be a Christmas movie video, and yeah. I will see you in 2 weeks with a new video. Bye!